There you go.
Okay. Okay, everyone, we'd like to welcome you to this year's 2023 Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge application seminar. The information that we're going to have here today is a note. This is being recorded and will be posted on the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police website, as well as the Illinois LEL website and the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge website, along with this PowerPoint for you to review. A couple of housekeeping things that we need to go over. We do have a chat box for you to ask questions. We'll be monitoring that as we go along and talk about the program, and we'll answer your questions as they appear in the chat box. So if you do have a question, please put it up there for us to look at, and we'll try and answer them. Any questions that you have that are not answered during the presentation, we'll have a time at the end of this webinar to go over those questions or to ask additional questions. The presenters today are going to be myself. I'm Scott Kristiansen. I'm a law enforcement liaison with the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police. I'm one of the program directors, along with Paul Rizzo, who is also a law enforcement liaison. We will be presenting we'll be presenting today. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. Anything that you want to get information on, or if we're not clear on anything, please let us know. So what is the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge? The challenge is set up to recognize excellence in law enforcement traffic safety programs throughout the state. We want to recognize those agencies that make traffic safety a priority, reduce crashes resulting in injuries and death, those that can detect and deter crime. It creates safe communities, improves the quality of life, and contributes to the state's strategic highway safety plan. This program is oversight and is funded through IDOT through a grant that is provided through the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. It's funneled through the Illinois Department of Transportation, and then to the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police Traffic Committee, who then provides the funding for a good part of this program. In addition to the program funding that we get that's grant funded, we are also funded through a number of corporate partners through donations and or supplies to help support our program. The Illinois Traffic Safety Program is set up and has priorities in 4 distinct areas, and they match what they have as NHTSA has in their priority areas. And those areas are occupant protection, speed awareness, distracted driving, and impaired driving. So again, what does this program do? The Traffic Safety Program recognizes excellence. It rewards creativity, commitment to, and innovation in traffic safety. It encourages agencies to develop a comprehensive traffic safety program. It provides a means to measure the effectiveness of those programs and emphasizes that aggressive traffic enforcement does lead to the detection of criminal activity. The Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge is set up in groups in regards to who you're going to be competing against. It's a friendly competition that groups you in like size and type agencies. that's who you'll be competing against. And you can see here that we have, this is how the agencies are grouped. Overall, they're grouped in municipal, sheriff's office, Illinois State Police districts. We have categories for college and university, other types of law enforcement agencies that include park districts, Secretary of State, forest preserves. And then we have part-time agencies, and then also a championship class. The championship class is comprised of those agencies that placed first in their category during the prior year and are then competing against each other, the best of the best from the previous year, in the championship class. So one of the things that we have with the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge is that our application is completely online. In order to make an application, you need to go, you can go to the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge website, which is listed here. It provides at that website, when you go there, a guide, an application guide. It's a how-to and completion guideline PDF that you can download that goes over each section and aspect of the program and allows you to be able to put together an application that can win in your category. The 2023 application link is listed there. You can go to the application site. It is different from the Traffic Safety Challenge website. That site is managed by the Tennessee Tech University. So you're going to apply, and so what does it look like? What does the online application look like? Well, when you go to that website, you're going to see this when you first get there, and that's at iltrafficsafety.org. And when you get there, you're going to see an application tab that you can go to. You have a resource tab, which gives you helpful hints on how to complete the application, and also frequently asked questions regarding how to put this application together and to submit it. If you have competed in the past and you have a username and password, you should be able to use that password again this year. It does not, you don't have to create a new one every year. Last year's will work for this year's application. If this is your first time doing an online application, you can create that by hitting that same tab on the bottom left. It will then ask you to create an account. You'll have to create a username or an email, create a password, at which time, once that's created, you'll be able to then have access to the application and be able to start doing and putting together and uploading the different sections of your application. In the application, we have some very important information that you need to complete. The initial contact page is going to be a page where we need to know who the head of your agency is. So we're looking for the sheriff, the chief, the patrol for ISP, for who's in charge of your district. We'll need their name, their last name, and email, and including their cell phone, so that we can provide information and send congratulatory letters to those agencies that win. Under that is the contact information. This is extremely important to have that information filled out. If we have a question that we have to clarify, and every year we do, we need to have the cell phone number, not your work cell phone number, but your personal cell phone number for the person that we can call if there's a part of the application that we have a question about. And we need to clarify, because if we have to guess, chances are we're going to probably guess wrong, and we want to be able to give you the most points you can possibly get in each section. So we want to make sure that that cell phone number is available. We will let everybody know the weekend that we're going to do judging, so that you can make plans as the person who puts this thing together to be available for any phone calls that we do over that we need to make over that weekend. In the application category, what we're looking for is which section you're in. Are you municipal? Are you sheriff? You know, what are you? What kind of agency are you? We need to know that information. We need to know, oh, I'm going to go back. Oh, maybe I won't. We're also going to need to know the type of agency that you're at, your name of your agency. We need to know the number of total sworn personnel at your department. Now, that number helps put you into your specific category within municipal or sheriff agencies. And then we need to know the total number of officers that are working on the street. Now, those officers, if you have part-time officers, you want to include for every 4 part-time officers, that counts as 1 full-time officer, if you're trying to figure out what that means. So it's officers working the street. If you have a detective that comes out from time to time to either do grant work or to help out with occasionally with some traffic details, that officer does, or that detective does not necessarily need to be counted in those. They come out once or twice a year to help out with some type of traffic safety enforcement effort. But those officers that do go out there and spend a majority of their year in patrol, you need to count them. If you were to have an officer who was in patrol for most of the year and got promoted or moved into investigations, you would still count them in there. It's not who at the moment is working patrol. So on the online application, there are a couple of different things that we want to make you aware of. There is a section that is available for specialty awards. Those specialty awards are in addition to your application. We have, as you can see, a number of those different types of awards that you can be recognized for those agencies that this is their first time putting in an application. You can still be recognized as a specialty award for basically Rookie of the Year. It's a first-time entry. You may not win your category, but you can still be recognized as being the best of the first-time entries. We have subcategories or specialty awards for bicycle pedestrian safety, commercial vehicle safety, distracted driving programs, your impaired driving, occupant protection, rail safety, speed awareness, and teen driving. A lot of times we see in regular applications that we look through each section that we have there and we find agencies that have a particularly strong program, and you can still win one of these without winning your category. But if you have a particularly strong program, say for speed awareness, what you need to do is do a separate section that you're going to upload into this. We are not going to look through each one of your sections and then come to our own conclusion as to whether or not you have a great program. You have to take photos and other information from each category, put them into one presentation, and then upload that into the specialty award. If you're not going to do a specialty award, just click none or check none in there so that we know. The way the application works is that you will save your section, and this will go for each as we move through the application. Say you create it in PowerPoint or Word or Publisher, and what you'll do is you'll save that to make it a PDF, because a lot of the computers that we look at and that we bring have different programs to look at that. And so if you leave it in the PowerPoint format and somebody doesn't have the same PowerPoint program that you have, maybe it's 1 or 2 generations back, or if you have one that's 1 or 2 behind what a judge has, that it could change your application and the look of that. It's going to move things around, change fonts. Make sure you turn that into a PDF. When you're done with that, you will choose the file as it says in there. You'll upload that file, and then you move on to the next section. The application is set up into priority areas. We have 7 different sections. We have policy and procedure, guidelines, training, incentives and recognition, public information and education, enforcement, effectiveness of efforts. How did you do? And then the quality of your submission. Did you spend a reasonable amount of time to try and put this together and follow the instructions that are in the guides? With that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul Rizzo, and he's going to cover section 1.
Thank you, Co-Director Kristiansen. So section 1 is policies and guidelines. What we're looking for is a policy that particularly emphasizes the area that we're looking for, whether it's occupant protection, whether it's speed, whether it's distracted driving, or whether it's impaired driving. However, what we're looking for is only the relevant portion of your text. We don't want your entire policy for officer safety if only a paragraph pertains to safety belt use. That's the first bullet. We want a guideline or policy for safety belt use within your agency. So we also, as the second bullet states, we want your enforcement policies for child restraints, because those are occupant protection categories also. Speed, distracted driving, and impaired driving. In the past, people have reworded their policy and included it as a paragraph with the heading. We don't want that. We want to see your policy. We want to see a date. We want to see when it was issued. You may have a policy that's several years old, and until you submit it to us and we take a look at it, you might not realize that it's in need of updating. So we want to make sure we see the date of your policy. This is a large issue that we find with the final bullet here. A lot of policies that we see say our employees will comply with state law. Well, the problem with state law is, as you all well know, that policy 12603.1 exempts police officers from wearing their safety restraint at all times. We're looking for an aggressive policy, an assertive policy that says, we understand that this is dangerous. We understand that it's important that you are properly restrained. We are going to emphasize that. Whether you're in your own vehicle, whether you're in a vehicle that we rent or lease, or if it's a department vehicle, and we expect all occupants to be restrained also. We don't want to see just the driver or just any city, village, town, police department employee. Policies and guidelines in the application. This is a section that's worth 20 points. So we're asking you if you have a written policy requiring officer safety belt use. It's a simple answer, yes or no. Follow the questions, a written policy making seatbelt use and child restraint a priority, speed enforcement a priority, impaired driving, and distracted driving. Do you have those policies? Make them into a PDF. Just take the relevant portion of the policy, and at the bottom you'll see choose file to upload. Throw that into your application as a PDF. This is an example of one of the policies. Sometimes an agency will have a policy for each separate category, or in this case, this particular policy covers everything at one time. Seatbelt use, child safety use, speeding, impaired driving, and distracted driving. We're looking for policies that state that these things are important to your agency and they're a priority. You can, if you don't have a policy for these things, say for example, you're an agency that really hasn't paid much attention to these categories in the past. If you don't have a policy and you can't get one passed before the end of the calendar year for 22, obviously that's passed, you can have a division commander, a chief, someone in a command capacity say that these things are priorities and we will be concentrating on them. So it doesn't have to be an actual written policy. It can be a guideline. It can be a recommendation. It can be part of your goals and objectives for the year. As long as you have something that says that these particular categories are important and we stress that you observe them, enforce them, and follow them yourself. Here's a section that has a policy that particularly addresses employees wearing safety belts. A lot of agencies use Lexipol. This is an example of a Lexipol policy. However, my experience with Lexipol has been sometimes you may have to go in and do a little bit of changing because it's kind of a general policy overall. And this is one that has done that. They mention any vehicle owned, leased, or rented, on or off duty, privately owned vehicle on duty, everybody has to be restrained, all occupants, including non-employees. Here's a general order addressing speed. It's an old general order. It's from 2014, but it still mentions the fact that the dangers of speeding are a high priority for the Chatham Police Department. Our suggestion would be to update this, even though it's a relevant policy. It probably, if it's 9 years old, it probably needs a little bit of updating. So we would recommend that and send a judge's letter back to this agency. Section 2, training. This is an important part of the application because what we're looking for is an attempt to train officers in all 4 of the target areas. Now, we understand that there's not a lot of training in some areas. For example, speed. You don't have a lot of speed training that, at least that we have been able to find. If you can find some, great, let us know. There's a lot of impaired driving training, a lot of seatbelt and child restraint training, a lot of distracted driving training. So we're looking for training in these 4 areas for your officers, but also don't forget your civilian personnel because they're part of the traffic safety issue also. You've got school crossing guards, you've got your CSOs, you've got everybody who's involved in any aspect of officer training. Your other training in areas other than the 4 target areas, if you are able to address training in some of these other areas, we gave you some examples there, crash investigation, bike safety, rail safety. The more comprehensive your program is, as Scott mentioned at the very beginning, we're looking for an overall emphasis on traffic safety. So obviously we want you to cover the 4 main areas, but the more you can do in other areas, the more branching out you can do, the more you're going to get recognition from the judges. Again, use your imagination. Do you use drones to investigate traffic crashes? Do your detectives or your investigators or your traffic officers or whomever, do they have read interviews and interrogations? This is important when you're interviewing people who are involved in serious or fatal injury traffic crashes, fatal or serious injury, because all fatals are injurious. Pursuit training, do you have a safety town? Do you use photography in your safety efforts? All of these things that you might not at first think of as traffic safety related, these are things that we want to see. Training provided at conferences. It's really impressive to the judges if you send someone to a conference and then they come back and they impart that knowledge to the rest of the agency, because sending 1 or 2 people to a conference is great, but what about the rest of the people that didn't get to go? So we're looking for sharing of information. The number of officers who've received training in 2022 in all 4 of these different areas: occupant protection, impaired driving, speed, and distracted driving. The last bullet at the bottom there, number of officers who've received any other traffic safety related training. And that's what we're talking about as far as drone usage, photography, interviews and interrogations, things like that. Also, we're looking at officers who've received training in the past who are still using that training, and that is mentioned at the top under the title of the slide. If you have crash reconstructionists, if you've got child passenger safety technicians, they weren't certified or recertified in 2022, but they're still using their skills, then we want you to mention that also. And then again, any other traffic safety related training in 2022. At the bottom, circled in red, anything you want the judges to be aware of, particularly, again, if you've done something that you think very few or no other people have done, then highlight that for the judges so that they know when they're looking at that training section to look for that. Tell us everything that you did. Formal schools, roll call training is very important. Video-based training, if you look at our website, you'll see a slide on that coming up. We have videos on the website that are available. NHTSA has training videos on their website. We'll cover a couple of other possibilities for training a little bit later on, but it's not just in service or in-house. Training bulletins. Do you use training bulletins? Do you give tests on your policies? Lexipol, I know, has intermittent tests that you can take that will cover certain types of policy. Do you use computer-based training? Some agencies, when you sign on to your squad at the beginning of your shift, you have to take a test on your general orders. Recertifications that happen during the year. And again, as we mentioned here, past training that may still be relevant, your child seats, child technicians, your reconstructionists, your DREs, your A-RIDE officers, all of those people should be included in this training module. Don't include things that don't apply to traffic safety. We see this every once in a while. Somebody will tell us that they sent their canine to bomb detection training, or that all of their officers or deputies have gone through ASP training. Keep it traffic safety related, because you'll get points taken off if you've included things that don't apply to the section. You can include certificates. We don't need everybody's certificate. If a lot of people have gone to particular training during a year, give us a representative sample. And then later on, when you do your training matrix or your table or your chart or your graph or whatever it is you're going to use, then you can tell us how many people went, how long the training took, what it was in, and we'll cover that in a later slide. But give us something that we can read. If you put a training certificate into your presentation and it's too small for us to read, we may just assume that it didn't happen during 2022 and you're trying to get something into the application that doesn't belong there. Make sure that they're readable. If it's very pixelated and we can't make the dates out, or the person's name or the name of the training, that's going to cost you. I mentioned on our Traffic Safety Challenge website, we have training videos, we have documents, we have presentations. All of these are available free to use. Most of them aren't very long. I'm sure that a lot of you have already seen some of these. Your vest won't stop this bullet, Is Today Your Day, pursuit training. All of these videos are available. Make use of them during roll call. If you can't do the whole thing at one time, they're easily broken up into sections. Just take advantage of the resources that we've made available for you. There's free online training. This is a really long URL at the bottom, but if you just go to Transportation Safety Initiative, TSI-DOT, you'll have online training. There's webinars, there's multi-day trainings, there's instructor-led trainings, and there are short trainings that you can use for roll calls or for somebody to sit down after they get done with roll call, sit down at a computer, take 5 or 10 minutes to go through a training module. There's a host of different trainings on this website, all through the federal government, all very good in content. Not all of them will apply to you. Some of them will be engineering, some of them will be policy, but they're available. Use them. Governor's Highway Safety Administration, they have training also. NHTSA, as I mentioned, has free online training. IDOT will have conferences on occasion. I know that this coming year, there's going to be, or there's supposed to be, a child passenger safety technician conference downstate. So keep an eye on all of your different providers, so you'll know if there's a particular training coming up that's relevant. Traffic Safety Resource Prosecutor. Jen Cifaldi is based out of one of the universities, and she provides updated case law, updated trainings. She frequently is a presenter at DRE conferences. She provides information for prosecutors. So if you have a local prosecutor that's involved in traffic safety, maybe they're your designated traffic prosecutor, or they've shown a particular interest in it. She posts information every now and then that apply to prosecutors and not to police officers. We generally forward this information to people who are our grantees, but if you email Jen, she will be able to set you up on one of the listservs, and you'll get this information directly. You won't have to worry about having it forwarded to you from someone else. We don't really have an issue with how you show us how your training has been conducted. This is just one example. There are many different ways to do this. We see different examples every year when we get applications in. What we're looking for is what was the training in? What was the area? What topic? When did it occur? Where was it at? And how many hours did it take? If it's a roll call training and it happens in your station and it only goes on for 15 minutes at a time, we're going to expect a lot more entries than you see under the topic of occupant protection here. You've got the CPS Express newsletter, the second line of that first topic. That's half an hour. One person was trained and they did it, it looks like 3 times, 3 reports. So this is the kind of thing we're looking for as far as how many people were trained during the year and how long did it take. If you tell us that you made training available, that's not going to get you a whole lot of credit. We need to know that people who were offered the training actually participated in the training and will need some sort of a proof, as we said, a certificate, a roll call, something like that. Impaired driving, other traffic training, speed, distracted driving, all of these things can be covered in one of these matrices or a chart or a graph. Anything that shows us how many people took the training, how long the training took, where it happened, when it happened, and what the topic was.
All right, I'm going to cover section 3, which is incentives and recognition. This is an important area, and it's important that you recognize both your law enforcement officers as well as your community, the civilians, for work that they do to help support traffic safety. Additional points are earned by the agency when they reward or recognize people and citizens who are doing good things. It's important to let them know, and it shows that it's a priority within your comprehensive program to ensure that people do get recognized. There's a number of ways to do this. You can recognize with your own certificates suitable for framing. You want to make sure that this is not a toasters for ticket type program. What you want to do is you want to recognize people who are involved in traffic safety. You may have somebody who's maybe not on the street doing enforcement, but they're helping out in other aspects of education, or they're in another part of your agency that doesn't allow them to do a lot of enforcement. You can still recognize them for the work that they're doing. The officers we like to see recognized are in the anchor areas. You can recognize them in a number of different ways. In this case, you can see that state police and Arlington Heights Police Department recognized with these certificates that they made. You can either have them made up at a printer, or in many cases, you can just do it in-house. One of the things that we look at, in addition to recognizing officers for their work, is, do you have a Saved by the Belt program? That's another way to recognize people in the civilian aspect of things. With incentives and recognition, there's a number of ways you can recognize people. What we want to see is, in this case, here's a plaque that was made that covers to recognize officers, and they do it kind of like they did with schools, that they have the categories across the top, and then each year as it goes down, you can put that officer's name in and year on the little plaque and go down in there. We've had instances where officers, we found out that, oh, we're not interested, it's not a big deal, we don't care. But then as soon as you announce or recognize one, an officer who said they didn't really care, and all of a sudden they're asking, when's my name going to go up on the plaque? This is important. Officers, law enforcement officers like to be recognized, and it's a good thing to do for the fine work that they're doing. When you do incentives and when you do these recognitions, take pictures, show us that you in fact recognize them. The visual is very good for us to see, that in fact you recognize these people, and you can show a picture. If you do a plaque like this, you maybe want to think about including that in there to show us. IDOT has a recognition program for Saved by the Belt. This is a program that recognizes citizens and officers who are involved in crashes that were saved from injury, or the injury was reduced as a result of them wearing seatbelts. This recognition can be found in addition to your department award. It's a pretty nice award. The certificate comes from IDOT, from BSPE, and you get a nice coin in a wood box that you can present to people who are recognized for this. You can go to the buckleupillinois.org website, hit the Saved by the Belt tab there on the left, and then what'll come up is this fillable PDF. It just asks for basic information on the person involved, the incident itself, when it occurred, and then they want something that's timely, and then the survivor's information. There's a number of instances where we've all come across crashes where we see, wow, we're gonna have to call an ambulance. We're gonna get them on, start them running, we're gonna need it. And you find out that there's a person standing that you think is a witness off to the side, and you go to ask them if they saw anything, and they go, well, yeah, I was in it. And we ask them if they're hurt. No, they're not hurt. You don't have to be injured. You don't have to be in a crash where the car is in a rollover, or something where someone could have died. If there's just a pretty good crash, we're not looking for a fender bender, but a pretty good crash where somebody could have been hurt, then you want to recognize them for that. Now we're looking for a program that you have. If you have 600 crashes in your jurisdiction and 50 injury crashes, and you have one Saved by the Belt, that's not a program. You will be recognized for doing it, but we want to see something a little more substantial, something where you go and do outreach in the community. Maybe you get a kid who's in a grade school and they were in a car seat, or if they were in a crash, and you go to that school, and at lunchtime you recognize them in front of all the peers at the school. Are you taking that extra step to recognize people? You don't have to do those kind of things. You can do it once or twice a year at a village board meeting. Maybe you do it, obviously right before it during Click It or Ticket in May, or you can look at something around the holidays. Do something called the Thankful Thanksgiving, and remind people about traffic safety and wearing their seatbelts through the holidays. If you do it once or twice through the year, you'll get credit for that. You don't have to recognize 20 or 30 people at that time, but if you recognize people throughout the year, one time a year, quarterly, as long as you recognize a decent amount of people, that's what's important. We want them to go out there and have you go to those people and promote that. Put it on your Facebook page. Put it out there so that you're saying, hey, look, you did a good job. You wore your seatbelt. Now, we don't recommend you doing this for somebody who's maybe an at-fault driver in a crash, except in one condition. Let's say you have a new driver, and the weather's like it's been maybe, recently in the last few weeks, and that person who's a new driver slides off the road, single car crash. That's someone maybe that they were smart enough to wear their seatbelt. You want to maybe bring attention to that and recognize that person. But typically, if it's an at-fault person, we really don't want to necessarily recommend that you're doing that. This is an in-house certificate that was made up. All you would have to do is you have a Saved by the Belt. We can send you an exemplar one if you want. Just email us, and we'll be glad to send you that. All you have to do is just change, put your logo in the certificate, put your department's name, All you have to do is then just change the person's name. So what counts as a recognition? Let's say you have somebody from either out of town or a few towns over, and they don't want to come to your department, and you want to recognize them. If you mail that recognition, that certificate to them, that counts as a recognition. You can count that towards the in-person ones as well as these particular ones where you mail it. That all counts for the same. These are easy points that you can get with the program. A lot of agencies don't really do this. They lose out on points that are pretty easy to do. This is a perfect time to consider doing that. Go back right now and look at the crashes that occurred in 2022. Even if you recognize them in the first quarter of 2023, you can still get credit for that and include that in your application because you are recognizing people from incidents that occurred in 2022. Compile those over the next few weeks, make up your certificates, send them out, and you can then use and get maximum points from that. In a competition that sometimes are only points apart from first to fourth, it would be a shame if you had this program, comprehensive program, and then you don't spend a little bit of time trying to get, this accomplished, that could have given you a first place recognition on that. Again, 500 crashes with 45 PI crashes, 20 recognition, that's good. 500 crashes and only 2 recognitions, not as good. Just remember that, it's not that hard to make those things up. So another way you can look at these this recognition program that a lot of people do is Saved by the Helmet. If you have people that are involved in bicycle, petacycle crashes or motorcycles and they were wearing a helmet, and you recognize them for Saved by the Helmet. If they were wearing one, that helps promote the use of helmets and that safety aspect. It's not just about motor vehicles. It could be about motorcycles. It could be about bicycles. We have a lot of instances right now where that saves people. You have those mini mobility type things out there that people could fall and, they're motorized, electric. You can recognize those people. Here's an instance and an example of a information sheet that's posted in the police department for the officers to see, to say, hey, we've got this award recognition program out there. And if you do see something as a police officer out there and you handle a call or an incident, think about the fact that we have this recognition program and they can let somebody know at their agency who will then put this person in for the award. So it's good that 1 or 2 people in a traffic unit may know about it, but we really want to see, did you take the effort to reach out to everybody in your organization to let them know that this exists and that you can go ahead and have a formal process of recognizing these people. Again, there's a lot of in-house recognition we've talked about. There's a lot of out of your department's recognition that you can do. Many of you are familiar with the Mad Heroes Award. That's a recognition for people that are involved in impaired driving enforcement and or education. You have the ITEA, the Truck Cop of the Year. You can be recognized for that. In fact, I think they're taking applications right now in early February for that recognition. So you may want to go to their website and see. I think you can still put in an application. And then you're also looking at AIM. They have the Top Cop award recognitions. If they are recognized through AIM, either with a department recognition or a individual recognition, you want to include that in your application. There are other ways you can be recognized also. Operation Lifesaver, which deals with rail safety. Many of you have rails traffic coming through your town and you have a pretty good program and you've been doing it for quite some time and you really want to promote that. You can put in for that and they'll recognize you for that. So make sure that you take advantage of those things to recognize people within your agency. AIM has a DUI PIN award program recognition for impaired driving arrests. This has been around for 20 plus years, but it is a cumulative award. So this is something that you can go to the AIM website. If you don't want to remember this long URL, you can go to aim1.org and you can see the tab for the recognition. take a look at your officers. It starts out at 25, 50, 100, and then it goes up by hundreds. And so look at those officers and take that opportunity to every year recognize those officers that move to the next level. Maybe you look at your agency and you talk to the command staff and see if you can have or will allow this pin. It's about the size of a quarter that'll be allowed on a uniform. You want to include that. Say, hey, look what we did. We saw this. We put into AIM for this, and we allow that to put on the officer's uniform so that they can take pride in that. And maybe they come to court one day and the defense attorney looks down and sees, that officer's made 400 DUI arrests, and maybe they think twice about whether they want to go to trial or not with that officer. This is, again, I'm sure over a 20-something year period, you can find a lot of people that can meet this level of recognition. So take advantage of it. It's still out there. Are you guys familiar with Drunk Busters? This is a program that AIM also has that you can recognize people that call in impaired drivers that result in an arrest. So this is something that from a recognition standpoint, you can look at and say, okay, we're going to get a person's name. If they call them in and they take the person's name, you can call them and say, hey, do you want to be recognized? Depending on what county you live in, you can either get a nice recognition letter and a certificate. And in some counties, they will recognize with a monetary reward for the person who called that in. Again, that's something you can look at and do a 2-for-1. You can use this into training. Let your officers know about this. This counts as training. Hey, did you know there's this drunk buster thing? Make sure that if you do have a person that calls it in, make sure that your dispatchers, if you have a centralized dispatching center, say, hey, look, when you get this stuff, talk to the dispatchers and say, hey, there's this program, and we want to make sure that when you get this information, if you can, if they're willing, get the names of the people who called it in so that you can recognize them. That's training. Are you training in your agency? No, but you're training your radio operators to make sure to get that information. That counts as training. The other thing you can do and recognize through AIM and or the Mad Heroes Award is that you have a particular outstanding state's attorney or local prosecutor. Make sure that if they've done a particularly good job, and this isn't for something that's like, they've been doing it for a couple of years. This is something that, they've spent a little bit of time doing this and they're committed. Put their name in for it. Maybe you have a community member that's not a state's attorney, but they're really involved in the impaired driving safety and getting the word out. Put their name in there. That counts, and you can include it in your application. Section 4, public information and education. So this is probably the biggest section that you're going to have. And it's also probably one of the most points in there, which is 50 points for in this case. And what we're looking at is, what did you do outside of the enforcement in your program? How did you spread the message of traffic safety or highway safety within your community? The section should include examples of newspaper articles, presentations that you did, proclamations, anything that you did to convince the public that traffic safety, highway safety is important. So in this section, what we want you to do is, in addition to considering the different areas and things you can do for public information and education, we want to see what you did in all the anchor areas. So rather than just have everything put together in a big, here you go, we did all this public information and education, what we'd like to do is go and break it out into in-occupant protection. What outreach did you do? How many people did you touch? How many things did you hand out that deals with occupant protection, whether it's child passenger safety and or adult? Same thing with distracted driving, same thing with all these anchor areas. And then maybe you do truck overweights. Did you go out there and did you go to one of the local trucking companies and did you give a presentation on overweights or crossing railroads? The ICC will come out and work with you to do a combined presentation for those. Include that in your public education and information. Many of you do the high school mock DUI crashes, and different kinds of prom events. You want to include that, some pictures, educational signs. Agencies will go out there and they'll do coloring contests where they'll make posters or signs up that are designed by students, and then they'll have those printed. They'll work with local printers. What things are you doing? Did you put it out on your website? Did you put it on your Facebook page? What did you do to get the word out there? If you do have any kind of local cable access channels, or if there's anything on the major networks that cover something that you do, make sure you take a screenshot of it, record it, take a screenshot of it, and then include it in your application. So right now we know that a lot of times the press, it's out of your control on what they print or don't print. You're going to put press releases out there for enforcement or education efforts, and sometimes it makes it in, sometimes it doesn't. Many of your local newspapers, major local newspapers, have an electronic version, and they can expand and include it in there, even though it's not in the print edition. They can have the same daily newspaper, but it's an expanded electronic, and maybe it gets in that way. It's important that you develop relationships with those reporters that come in to your agency and get that data and information from you that they can report on. Build that relationship so that maybe they'll put it in one of those formats. But in the event that they don't, there's a thing called the patch. And we've talked about this for many years. The patch is a local, online only kind of newspaper, electronic. And what it does is it allows you to write the byline and the article. So you can put in as many as you want. You can write the article. You can include your photographs if you want regarding what you're doing. And what they'll do is you can target it to your local audience, to your local town or your local county. And you can go ahead and write that, and they'll look at it to make sure it's submitted to an editor. They look at it. They make sure there's nothing goofy with it. And then they'll pretty much print. They'll print everything typically that you'll put in there, and they're more than happy to do that. So where is it? This is just a screenshot of some of the areas, that I just pulled up real quick, but this is around the state. You can find that if you don't have one for your particular age, for your town, that you just go to the next town over, and you'll find that there is a lot of people that actually read this thing. I was shocked when we kind of looked at and saw how many people are actually looking at this and reading these articles. So if you do have an article that's posted in there, make sure to take a screenshot as an example of one or two. We don't need one of every single article that was posted or every single press release that you put out. You can give us a couple of examples, maybe one for each anchor area, and then say we put 34 of these things out last year. And then maybe just list them, for the different types of things you did, Stop on Red Week, or you did, a motorcycle safety one, list all the ones that you put out there, but then you give us maybe the examples in the anchor areas. But this is out there for you to be able to use. You're not limited to just the main newspapers.
And just for an example, Scott, while we were waiting to go online today, I looked up just my local area, Algonquin, Lake of the Hills, in the last 30 days, had 104,000 views, and Crystal Lake Cary had 118,000 views. So there are people who read this out there, which was surprising to me.
Yeah, they're out there, and it'll do it. Do you have somebody in your agency for social media? The outreach now. I mean, how are people getting their information? The regular newspapers are, not as much. Everything's social media. They're getting downloads and notifications on their phones, and that's where they're getting their information. So you want to consider how you can leverage the different types of social media that's out there. Make sure that you stay up to date with what your target audience uses. Older people like me and Paul, we use, we'll use Facebook a lot more than, say, somebody that's in high school. They use different formats than other people. So when you're targeting your messaging, you want to include, hey, you don't just say we used the different, particular type of social media, you want to say, look, we targeted these people in this format. And, we're looking to reach out to teens and do teen safety. So we use these social media. Explain a little bit more about what you're doing. That's going to get you extra points rather than just say, well, we used, Facebook and all the other ones that are out there, generally, and said, well, we put out safety and all these things. Tell us how you data drove or figured out how you leveraged that social media to hit that target audience. It's going to score extra points for you, definitely. So the other thing with public information and education is, what else did you include? Scan some of the education material that you used and show us what you used and how you used it. There's a lot of different things that people can do, and different cool things that agencies have done in the past. You'll see like that holly wreath down there. That was actually put out by IDOT, but some agencies make up their own. And what they do with that is they put them on Christmas trees and put the price on it, so they're getting a traffic safety message. They're taking those same things and they're putting them in liquor stores on liquor bottles. So at the particular holiday, that they have to pick up the bottle and they see the message. Paul had mentioned that he was aware one time of an agency that put them on the lockers at a school, and they tied them onto all the lockers and all the locks and everything, and kids got the message before they went out for the Christmas holiday. What we want to do, though, when you're talking about putting these materials out there, you don't just say, hey, everybody has their in their foyer or their lobby, they have like the stack with all of the different types of informational things. We want a little bit more than that. We want to know, when you went out to National Night Out, how many people did you reach? How many of a particular piece of educational information did you hand out? We handed out 200 of these at this event, 300 at that event, 1,000 at this event. We want to know how many people you talked to, not just we did it. That's going to get you a lot of extra points. I had mentioned that, they have competitions to get the word out with stuff. You look at the lower left, that was a banner that they had made up. They came up with, give us a cool saying, and the student came up with the cool thing, and they took it and they used it and ran with it and had it posted and banners made up all over their jurisdiction. The other thing you want to remember when you're doing public information and education that's extremely important, it's going to really get you points, is remember second language outreach. So if you have a community, if you have a Hispanic community, what outreach are you doing to talk to those people? Are you giving presentations to English as a second language course? Are you going into those things? And as part of that, come and talk to them about traffic safety. Do you have a high population or ethnicity from an Eastern European country? What a lot of people don't realize is that, they don't, if you're an Eastern Orthodox religion, you don't celebrate Christmas or New Year's necessarily or at the same time, and that you might celebrate at a different time of year. And so you want to make sure that you reach out to those people at that time of year where it's most effective. Put that in your application that you did that. Do you go to radio stations? A lot of them love to have officers show up and talk about particular topics that are important or they're going on at the time, which includes either campaigns for enforcement and education. You've got Click It or Ticket. You've got, the 100 Days of Summer. You've got Speed. They love to have people come into the morning shows, particularly the smaller radio stations. Are you doing that? Take pictures, document it. There's a lot of things you can do that will help your point to get maximum points in this section. Now with iPhones, and I think a lot of the Galaxy phones, the quality of the video that you can take from those things is almost professional. And so you don't need an expensive camera. You can just use your iPhone to go out there and do public service announcements that you can put on Facebook, that you can put on the local cable channels, you can put on the local police department's website that they can click on. Do those kind of things. Take the extra effort to get that information out there. Extra points. Proclamations. They have examples with NHTSA of different proclamations. If you're involved in the grant system, or if you want to just go to IDOT's website, you can go there, and they give you examples of pre and post press releases. They give you proclamation examples. If you do searches on the web, you can just go to proclamations for impaired driving, and you'll get examples that you can then take and make your own. And then for different aspects or campaigns during the year, you can go ahead and use those with your village board. And maybe you do a proclamation with Click It or Ticket when you recognize Saved by the Belt in May. You do that all together and you have them read the proclamation. It's really good outreach, and it gets a lot of good press throughout the village. And then you're looking at giveaways. The other thing you can do is partner with like a McDonald's or a 7-Eleven or some bigger unit of restaurants that are out there that will be more than happy to give you a free, get a free ice cream cone. Bring it in, because obviously you're going to buy more than one, but they'll give you those. And then you can say, okay, here, you go to the high school, and if the kids are wearing the seatbelt as they're leaving, you give them these cards, and they get them. And it's positive reinforcement throughout that. You can do bicycle safety in the summer with kids riding and using helmets or stopping for stop signs. Caught you riding safely. Give them a coupon, give them something to go out there. It's a good positive spin for your public education and information. The more of those kind of things that you do, the more points you're going to get in this section. And again, outreach in the community. You've got marquee signs. You may have your own message board sign that you can do. If you have a website, off on the right, Tazewell County has a thing where you can click on and get information for specific information, teen driving, child passenger safety. Include that on your website. And then obviously you've got your Facebook pages. The other thing that I want to mention to you is that IDOT has a lot of these banners, like the one you see at the bottom on the right. They're free. They've got them for motorcycle safety. They've got them for impaired driving. They've got them for occupant protection, for distracted driving. If you contact Paul or myself, we're law enforcement liaisons. We'll pick up what you need the next time we're in Springfield and bring them up to your agency. You do not need to be a grantee to be able to get access to these things. If you just let us know, we'll pick them up, we'll drop them off. But it's something, again, you need to take advantage of and include in your application. Look for opportunities to provide information and push it out there. You can forward stuff if you go on Twitter and somebody tweets something that's particularly good from IDOT, because they always are putting out good information and good, kind of like warnings, or there's something that has to do with traffic safety. They're always putting something out. Well, then you retweet that and put it out there, and then include that. We retweeted from these other law enforcement agencies X amount of tweets regarding occupant protection, speed, impaired driving, whatever's important. If the road's closed, not so much. We're more looking for traffic safety kind of things, but look for those opportunities and then document that in your application. Traffic safety marketing. This is NHTSA's public information and education section. It's run through the Department of Transportation. This website has pretty much anything you would ever want to know for information and education as it pertains to, you name it. You go onto the website, it's trafficsafetymarketing.gov, and they will look at like the upcoming campaigns. You can see they have Super Bowl, St. Patrick's Day, and they have a texting one, you drive, you text, you pay. Those are all ones that are coming up in the spring. They have different types of banners. If you've ever worked with Facebook, your picture doesn't necessarily fit in there. If you want to include it, you need pictures that actually are formatted to fit in there. They have them there. They have all kinds of information for you to be able to take, use throughout the year for all the NHTSA campaigns, as well as other different types of campaigns. So you don't have to really kind of try and figure out what you want to do for yourself. You can go ahead and go to this website, and they will have the most up-to-date information, data, and stuff that you can use, that you can put out, so you don't have to spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel. But definitely go to this site. It's very good. NHTSA has a communications calendar and an events calendar. These are, again, at the trafficsafetymarketing.gov. You go under calendars and you can get these. This has every single calendar event of things that are happening throughout the year in highway traffic safety. It talks about conferences that are going on, talks about specific weeks. We all know Click It or Ticket, in particular weeks, but there are these secondary important campaigns that are also listed in there. National Work Zone Awareness Week, those kind of things are listed on here. And then you can go to websites or web links that will talk about those things and get you information on that. And then maybe you can include, 1 or 2 days of enforcement and education related to that. This is the communications calendar. This covers all of the different types and time periods of the different media buys that NHTSA is going to be doing. So if you partner with them, you're going to be able to get, and leverage that. They're going to see stuff on TV. You're going to hear it on the radio. And then you can put your own information out there. But it also talks about what the messaging is for each one of these campaigns and what they're going to be looking for you to help complement and put out. Indicate in your public information and education which one of these you went out and did and coordinated with. We did these. Put that information in there. Don't just say we followed the communications calendar. Tell us what you did. Section 5, Paul.
Alrighty then, enforcement. So as Scott said, we're not looking for a Toasters for Tickets program, but obviously enforcement is one of the E's: education, enforcement, engineering. So we do expect you to write tickets. These are just some examples of different campaigns that occur during the year. They're on the comms calendar, and this is just a very small sampling of what occurs during the year that you can take advantage of. There you go. Did you take part in the national campaigns? These are things that you don't have to do anything for other than participate. You don't have to come up with your own media. You don't have to come up with your own enforcement and your own strategies. Click It or Ticket is always there. Drive sober or get pulled over. There are different periods during the year where national campaigns occur, and you can take advantage of these and do a certain amount of your enforcement during these campaigns. If you're a grantee, you're required to do them during some of the campaigns. If you're not a grantee, feel free to participate if you like. Special enforcement efforts, anything that's not on the calendar that you decide that you're going to do. Do you have an area in your neighborhood where people are complaining about stop signs being run? Do you have an area downtown where people walk off the curb in front of cars all the time? Anything that you have a problem with traffic safety, we expect some sort of enforcement action. Take your top 5 or top 10 crash locations. What are the most dangerous intersections or stretches of roadway in your jurisdiction? What happens during those times? What do you do about it? That'll come up in the next section as far as effectiveness, but at some point, you need to go out, figure out what's going on at these locations, and then decide what you're going to do about it. Explain how you selected that problem area. And then again, as I just said, how did you address that? You can participate in the events. I just mentioned that the comms calendar and the events calendar have something going on practically every month during the year. So pick a week, pick a month, pick a campaign, do something special during that area, during that time, and then use it for your public information and education also. Tie all of these different areas into one another. Same thing, traffic safety initiatives, which ones did you take advantage of? And then if you want to take a shot of this calendar, do a crop, take part of the calendar out, show us what you did during what campaign, put the campaign on one side of a page, put your enforcement efforts on the other side of the page. We'll talk about putting your presentation together later on, but that's something that you can do that shows You took advantage of a particular campaign that was advertised, and here's what you did about it. How did you use your data? Scott likes to say we're looking for outcomes, not outputs. We care about you actually going out and writing tickets, but that's not what it's all about. You can sit in a particular spot where you know people are going to come speeding by every day, but there has never been a crash in that location. There never will be a crash in that location. So what are you doing? We expect some results. We expect you to take a look at where things are happening and then formulate a strategy, then show us what you did to address that problem. The graph in the right-hand corner there, crashes by day of the week. If you've got a particular time of the day of the week when certain things are happening, what are you doing? Are you sending officers out there? Are you putting people out in plain clothes to do spotting? Are you running radar? Do you put up a speed sign? What is it that you're doing? Show us that you're actually making some effort to take these violations that are occurring and doing something about them. The lower right-hand corner, I'll go back. The lower right-hand corner there, you've got an example of crash locations over a 5-year period. If you've got an area that you're doing a good job and you're effectively reducing crashes, or you've got citizen complaints and every year you're going out there and you're addressing that, and every year your complaints are going down, or in this case, your crashes are going down, use that. We expect at least 3 years worth. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But if you've got data going back further that shows that you've been accomplishing your goals for a longer period of time, by all means, include that also. Show us pictures. The picture in the middle there, 113 miles an hour, and that's probably something that's going to get somebody's attention. The picture on the right, do you do overweight truck enforcement? Do you participate? Do you partner with the state police? Does an agency near you have portable scales? What is it that you're doing to keep the roadway safety as far as second division vehicles? It's not just all about the cars that you and I drive. It's about those big vehicles on the road also. If you're doing any kind of enforcement, you're doing an enforcement zone, you're doing a roadside safety check, make sure you give us pictures. Show us what it is that you're doing. If during the last year you had a seatbelt zone, or you worked with someone to do a speed enforcement effort, and you didn't think to take pictures because you either didn't know at the time you would need them, or it just slipped your mind, or you didn't have anybody available, you are allowed to go back out, set something up to show that this is what you did at that particular time, take a picture of it and include it. Just make sure that you're not taking pictures of things that you didn't do and telling us that you did things that you didn't participate in.
And that goes for your public information and education. If you spoke at a high school driver's ed class and you didn't take a picture, you can go ahead and mock up that picture. You did that, and this is a visual representation of something you actually did. So you can use that also for PI&E.
Section 6, your effectiveness. We're asking for 3 years of enforcement data. So the number of seatbelt tickets, number of child seat tickets, speeding, et cetera, that you wrote in 22, 21, and 20. We're asking specifically for these 3 years. As you get into the section and you're starting to do a narrative, again, if you've got a longer history of being effective in reducing your crashes or reducing your complaints, whatever it is you're trying to do, by all means, include more information than we're asking for, but be sure you do at least the minimum that we're looking for. Talked about this, outcome versus outputs. Just because you wrote a bunch of tickets doesn't mean that you accomplished anything other than writing a lot of tickets. So what goals do you have? Now, this could be when you go back into your policies and procedures and you're talking about, these are the areas that we're going to concentrate on this year. This can be also included in this section also. What was the goal and objective? Did you have a particular stretch of roadway where people are complaining about speed all the time? Did you have an intersection that has a tremendous amount of crashes that somebody can't figure out why this is happening? Did you have an increase in your seatbelt use rate? We're looking for you to take an example of what your seatbelt use rate is at the beginning of the year, or as close to the beginning of the year as possible. And then again, as close to the end of the year as possible. So we can see, did your enforcement efforts, did your public information and education efforts, did they make a difference in your seatbelt use rate? If you don't have a chance to do that, you use the state seatbelt use rate, and that will be on our website, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, that's in the application.
It's in the application. Did you reduce your A, B, or C injury crashes? So if you decide that, well, we've got an intersection and it had 100 crashes during the year, 20 of them were A crashes, 50 of them were B crashes, and let me do my math, 30 of them were C crashes. So you decide, well, you know what? We want to lower our amount of type A injury crashes. So you go out, you do enforcement, and you go down from the number of A crashes you had last year to a lower number this year. Document that. Make sure you let us know that what you're doing is being effective. Also, increase the number of your public education events. If you don't have a chance to go out and be with people because maybe there are still some restrictions as far as gatherings, do them online. Do you have a public service announcement that you can put together? Does your village, city, town, county have a cable channel that you can get onto? Anything that you can do as far as showing people what you set out to do, what you did, and what you accomplished goes into the effectiveness.
You know, one of the things you can look at also with this is that if you're doing, you have a particular goal that you want to reach and you have a particular plan to address an issue in an area, and let's say halfway through the year, you realize you're not doing anything and you change up what you're doing to try and still have an impact on it. You want to explain that, yeah, the first half of the year we did that, it didn't work as well as we wanted. So we changed it up. So it shows that it's not just like, well, we're going to continue doing the same thing and, you know, expect something different down the road. It's like, no, we're looking at this closely enough to change up what we're doing to see if that has an impact, you know, a better impact, a more effective impact than what we've been experiencing.
There's a whole list of goals and how did you accomplish them? We don't necessarily expect you to have 15 or 20 different goals that you hope to achieve during the year. Narrow it down to a number that you think you could conceivably be able to achieve. So take some of these examples, great. Otherwise, whatever you have in your particular jurisdiction that's a problem, go to your city council meetings and listen to what the people have to complain about. Go in plain clothes so they don't accost you afterwards, but see what the people are complaining about. If you ask, most of the time you'll find out that the most complaints that an agency receives are about traffic-related problems, whether it's cutting through my neighborhood, whether it's speeding, whether it's kids driving with more than they should have in the car, people texting and driving. You need to do some research and find out what your problems are and then come up with a plan to address them. Graphs and charts, again, narratives are great, but if you want us to pull specific data out of a 2 or 3 paragraph long narrative, it's going to be real difficult for us to do it. And you're probably not going to get the credit you deserve. Use charts, use graphs, use tables. The only thing that I will caution you on is if you've got a small number of incidents, whether it's crashes or whether it's citations or whether it's complaints, if you've got a small number, try not to use a bar graph and show that there's been a 75% drop when your number of complaints went from 4 to 1. If you're going to do something like that, maybe try a different method than a bar graph. These are some good examples because they have a significant amount of data and it shows that there's either a trend or a direction in which these things are going. It lets us look and see, well, over the 5-year period, 3-year period, 6-year period, whatever, what have you been doing and how has it affected what you've been doing? And like Scott said, if you find out that something's not working, what did you do to change it? And did it affect your outcomes? Don't forget engineering. This is an example of an engineering project that was undertaken that actually made a difference in the character of the roadway. There was an agency that had an intersection where people were merging off of a right turn into a slip ramp for the tollway. People were getting in crashes because cars were coming from several lanes over to the left into this slip lane, which is all the way on the right-hand side. An officer went out, took a look at it, spent a few days watching traffic, went back to the village engineering department and said, hey, what can we do here? Ended up where they just put some gore striping in to let people know that this is not really a lane of traffic. Wait until you get farther down to merge, and it solved the problem. So just because you're writing a lot of tickets or just because you're addressing a lot of complaints doesn't mean that engineering doesn't have something to do with it. Sometimes just the nature of the roadway or the nature of this intersection or something along those lines can help with the problem. Section 7.
Yeah, your favorite section.
This is my favorite section. And when I say favorite, I mean not really. Because back in the day when we had paper entries and you had to put together a book, we would get some entries that were 3 inches thick and others that were an inch thick that were 5 times better than the one that was 3 inches thick. So it's not how much you do, it's how well you do, how much you do. So we don't want a book of spells that comes up with 150 pages on seatbelts and then another 150 pages on speeding. Keep it short, keep it to the point, but make it good quality. Every computer in the world has spell check. There's no reason to have words that are spelled wrong. Grammar. If you have problems putting a sentence together, have somebody help you. I always suggest have somebody else read your application before you turn it in, because many times you'll know what you wanted to say, you'll know how you wanted to say it, and in your head, that's what you did, but on paper, that's not what came out. So have somebody proofread with you to help you out. Fonts. Don't use 37 different fonts on a page in 14 different colors. Stick to one font as your general rule throughout the application. And then when you want to emphasize certain sections, certain narratives, certain graphs, whatever, then use a different font, then use different colored fonts or different style font, but don't get crazy and use a bunch of different things that do nothing but clutter up and confuse a page. Organize it. We'll talk about that in the next couple of slides. Make sure your photos are recent. It's really helpful if you have a date on them or there's some indication of when it occurred, that it did occur during 2022. Some agencies, we're sad to say, have been caught using other agencies' photographs in their applications. Don't do that. We have been around for a while. We have judges that work in different areas. Just because I might not have seen an agency down the road doing something that you took credit for doesn't mean that one of our other judges won't. Newspaper articles. Be sure that there's a date somewhere on the newspaper article. Also, we have calendars. We can tell that if you say that you did something during September 3rd through 5th, and that was your Labor Day campaign, and we know that Labor Day was September 2nd through 4th in 2022, we're probably going to figure that out. White space, try not to use too many items on one page and try not to use too few items on one page. 2 certificates and 87% of your page is blank is not going to go over well with the judges. On the other hand, 112 certificates and no white space on your page is not going to go well with the judges. So be sure that you do a good job of utilizing the space that you have with the number of items and the type of items that you have. Quality. If things are pixelated so that when you blow them up, we can't read them, you're not going to get credit for it. Not only are you not going to get credit for it in the quality area, you won't get credit for it in whatever area you're trying to document, whether it's public information, whether it's training, whether it's enforcement. So make sure that you don't have, I almost said Xerox. Does anybody say that anymore? Don't use a photocopy of a photocopy. Try to get a decent picture, try to get a decent scan, and use something quality. Yeah, spell check will work, but be sure you're using the right word. Because if you use the wrong word and it's spelled right, it's going to let you go, but it's also not going to give you, we're not going to give you any credit. Quality of submission as far as pictures. Some sort of a caption. If your picture doesn't have a title to it, we don't know. I'm assuming this is the auto show because that's usually where these pictures are taken, but we don't know what that officer is pointing at. There may be a dead rat on the floor. We don't know. So put a caption down there that says, what is this officer doing? And maybe where is he at? If this is the auto show, that's great. Not everybody gets to go to the auto show. Maybe you want to take credit for that. When you're putting your submission together, whether it's under the first category here, policy and guidelines, all the way through to the last one, effectiveness of efforts, we would like you to put everything in this order. All of your occupant protection material goes first, then all of your speed, then your distracted driving, then your impaired driving. That way, when we're going through an application, we can say, okay, here's all your occupant protection information for policies and guidelines, training, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have to skip back and forth trying to figure out what part of the section, what it is that we're looking for. So if you do this, the judges are happy. You're going to get credit for it. Tips. It's a little late now, but for next year, prepare your information ahead of time. If you have folders on your laptop or your desktop, or if you're using paper copies that you're going to photocopy, that you're going to take pictures of or make PDFs of later, take things and make a policy and procedure folder, make an enforcement folder, make an effectiveness folder. That way, when you do something, when you take a picture of it, when you write up an article about it, you drop it right into your folder and you're not looking through 107 different files that don't maybe have titles on them. April 14th, when you're putting this together and it's due tomorrow night at midnight, looking through things and you don't know where anything is. Be very kind and generous to your records people, because that's where you're going to get a lot of information. Decide if you're going to apply for a special award. If you're going to do that, Scott said this at the very beginning, don't expect us, if you check on putting in for a speed awareness award, well, don't expect us to go through your application in every different section and say, well, here's the policy and procedure for that. Here's the effective. No, put them all, take whatever is relevant out of the individual sections, put them in a separate document, upload it into the computer, and then that's your special award submission. I mentioned quality is more than quantity. We have a couple of sample applications on the website. If you would like additional examples, contact Scott or myself. We may be able to dig something up and give you some examples of somebody that isn't in your category that you can use. Narrative summaries should support attachments. If you're going to attach something, make sure we know why it's there and what it is. Mention that stats are not outcomes. We're looking for what happened with what you did. Just because you wrote a bunch of tickets doesn't mean that you accomplished anything other than writing a bunch of tickets. The how-to guide on the Traffic Challenge webpage is very long and very involved. You don't have to address every point. Just kind of give it a look, take some tips away from it, use what you can. Know your point of contact for questions. I mentioned that. If you have a question about your stats, know who to go to. If you have a question about your public information and you have somebody in the village or in the town or in the department who does that, be sure you know that you can get something that you need from them. And first impressions count. When we're looking at your application, you could have a bunch of good information in there, a lot of good enforcement, but if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't present well, that's going to cost you in the long run also.
So how are the judges, how are we judged with this? I think judging with the applications, entries are placed in their category based on agency size and type. Like we mentioned before, there's a team of 3 judges that assign to each category. Those judges, you may have Paul as a judge, and he judges very critical. The second judge, not so much, and you have somebody who's not, even less than that. We take a combined score of those judges. They judge all of the applications in each category. It's not mixed and matched. 3 judges judge a category. As long as they're consistent, you're going to get a consistent score. And then again, depending on the group of judges, the scores will vary for each category. So, some categories may score higher than others. It doesn't mean anything except that we've identified first, second, and third place. Sometimes agencies are only a fraction of a point apart. So it's very important that you pay attention to kind of those little things, those little extra things, because over, 1 or 2 points over each category could put you from 4th to 1st in your category. If there's a lot of good applications, the bar keeps getting raised every year. And so just because you don't place in the top 3 doesn't mean that you didn't have a good application. It just means somebody did slightly better. We have a feedback letter that we provide everybody who asks for one. If you want a feedback letter, you just have to send Paul or myself an email or call us, and we'll take the judges' notes, because when we do this, when you're being judged, the judges' score sheets have a section where they have to make notes. And if they liked it, they have to put down why they liked it. If it's something they think could be improved, they note that. And then if they think it's something that you just missed the mark on, they'll put that down there. Our goal is to help you put together a better application the following year. And so somebody will say, well, I did this last year and I scored, a certain level, first, second, or third. And then I did the same thing this year, but now I didn't score, or maybe I'm a second or third instead of first. And so the feedback letter will help you with that. And so all you have to do is request it. We'll be glad to send it to you. And we can still do that for this year if you want. If you did an application last year, we can still do it. So what happens if you win? The biggest thing is you get recognition. So every year we do an awards banquet, breakfast that we do. It's in coordination with the Midwest Police and Security Expo. That event brings in all the first, second, and third place winners, and anybody who really wants to attend. And in addition to that, you get the recognition of the agency for how well you did with the competition in the year. And so you can use that then. The LELs will come to your agency if you want to have this presented at a village board meeting. We'll be happy to do that for you if you place first, second, or third, or even win one of the specialty awards. You can get a specialty award, like I said, without winning first, second, or third. We'll still come and present that if you want. In addition, we have 1 or more grand prizes worth thousands of dollars, prizes that we also are able to hand out. Last year, we were able to give out a complete squad car equipment package. So you got lights, push bars, radios, you got computers, video systems, cages, everything that you would need to outfit a vehicle is worth like between $40,000 and $50,000 of total equipment that you would get for your agency to put in a car. You get that with no strings attached. We had other grand prizes, and that depends on how how our partners go. We gave away speed signs, and Northwestern University also gave away a complete crash reconstruction education package. So you could put somebody all the way through reconstruction. So we have a lot of good prizes if you win. That is all the first place agencies get put into this category to see if they win this particular prize. But if you don't, we have a lot of other people who support our program. And so there are radars, lidars, other education, all kinds of equipment and jackets that we give away each year from our sponsors. So what we want to do is, help you do your traffic safety efforts better and more effectively. And so we give away probably somewhere in the range of between $90,000 and $100,000 worth of equipment every year. So in addition to the recognition, you also have the chance of getting some of this equipment. These are some of the sponsors for our car package. AAA gives us a donation every year of monetary. Again, we talked about education. Wayland provides the light bars, Panasonic with the computers and video system, Havas and Satina, we got push bars and mountings. Ultra Strobe does all of the installation for your vehicle. Federal Signal has light bars, and Suburban Accent does the striping for your car, so they'll stripe your car. Paul, I'll let you have this.
You don't have to participate in the Traffic Safety Challenge to have someone nominated for the Looking Beyond the Safety Belt Award. This award stems from a primary seatbelt violation. So you can't stop somebody for speeding and then say, oh, by the way, they weren't wearing their seatbelt. This is an occupant restraint or a child restraint violation. That's the reason for the stop. When you stop them, well, look what I found. You get guns, you get drugs, you get kidnapping victims, you get whatever. All of these people last year, all these state troopers got guns on traffic stops. The two people from Berwyn, I believe they got guns also, and Naperville. You remember what they got? They got dope?
Yeah, I think they got, yeah.
So, I mean, we're looking for something that's out of the ordinary. You know, we don't care if the guy's got a warrant, except one year somebody got somebody with a warrant from Interpol. So that would be something we would want to know. But you don't have to enter the Traffic Safety Challenge to do this. So we encourage you guys, regardless whether or not you're putting in an application, tell your friends in other agencies. This is a very simple application. It's a 1 or 2 page form, and then we just ask you for a cover sheet of the arrest, just so that we know exactly what happened. A team of judges gets together and judges this. So look back on your 2022 traffic stops if you remember anything that somebody did that occurred between January and December 31st. You've got until May 1st to turn this in addition to or in lieu of a traffic safety challenge application. We hope that something like that will motivate people who say, I don't want to write tickets, I want to be the real police. Well, again, as Buck Savage once said, bad guys drive cars too. So that's what we're kind of hoping to use that to enhance community safety, which is one of the things we said at the very beginning that this program is designed to do. Highway Safety Leadership Award. If you've got an officer who has dedicated a significant amount of time to traffic safety, and we're not talking somebody who's been in a traffic unit for 20 years and went out and wrote tickets every day and that's it. We're talking about people who took an active role in, maybe you set up a child passenger safety program at your agency. Maybe you served on a traffic committee. Maybe you went out to the community and did some outreach work in addition to whatever else your normal duties are. These are the kind of people that we're looking for this Highway Safety Leadership Award. It's for sworn personnel. It's for prosecutors. So if you have a local prosecutor or a state's attorney or somebody who has put a lot of effort into traffic enforcement, traffic safety, judges, anybody in the other end of the legal system, they're eligible for this award also. And then regular citizens. If you have somebody who's made a significant effort in supporting you or somebody else in your efforts to promote traffic safety. This is on the website, iltrafficchallenge.org. It's a lengthy application, but we're looking for a lot of information, what people have done. There have been state representatives that have won this award. Numerous cops have won this award. one of our sponsors from AAA has won this award for her work over her career promoting traffic safety. So this is open to a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. But again, it's something that you've devoted a significant amount of time and effort to over a significant period of time, not just you came in and wrote tickets 8 hours a day for 20 years. It's on the website in the, is it the lower right-hand corner? I can't see because it's too small for me to read.
Yeah, it'll be down. Yeah, it's down
There's
there.
a
You'll be
link.
able to see it. Yeah.
So just go to the website, see the application, determine if all of those things apply, all the criteria that we're looking for, and then submit somebody for that award. They'll get invited to the other thing that I forgot is the people who win the Looking Beyond the Safety Belt Award, they're invited to the breakfast, they're comped, and then they receive their award at the traffic safety breakfast.
So we have our Traffic Safety Challenge website. Again, it's at iltrafficchallenge.org. It has a lot of information, resource links, training information, sponsor information, application information, the how-to guide. There's a lot of good stuff that's going to help you in your application and to enhance it, and just in general, it just has traffic safety information. So, go to that time to time. We post information as we get it, but it's a good site for you to visit. The deadline, you have until 11:59 at 23:59. That's on April 15th, tax day, or what used to be tax day, to hit submit. Now, for some reason, if there's a computer problem, because it is electronic, if there is a problem, let us know. We'll figure out a way to get your application submitted if there's some kind of problem with your server. But for the most part, that's when the deadline is, and then we go ahead and judge within the following month, and then we let people know what the results are. Probably sometime in the latter part of May, once we complete our judging, and then we'll let you know what's going on as far as the breakfast and everything else. But the deadline, make sure you get it in April 15th. Remember that. We have resources for you to help with this. The traffic challenge, obviously, we just messaged our website. We have a Twitter account. If you sign on and follow us, we're not going to bombard you with stuff, but we put out good information that will help you in a variety of things for the application, but also just in traffic safety, for grants, when they post notice of funding opportunities. There's a lot of good information that we can get out to you. So consider following us on Twitter. And then there's also the law enforcement liaison website, and there's a lot of good information also with that'll help complement these other two, this other website and the Twitter account. We also have a Facebook page for the law enforcement liaisons that you can go to. Again, this is our contact information. You have my information here with my email address and Paul's. We also have another co-director, Jason Stubler. He's a commander at Naperville Police Department. You can also reach out to him if you can't get a hold of one of us, and he'll be able to help you out and answer questions just as well as Paul and myself with that. That being said, I'm going to look here to see if there's any. I don't see anything in the chat. Does anybody have anything? Questions or anything that we have that we need to cover or talk about? Let me look here. All right, looks like it's pretty good. Remember that if you sit back and later on today or tomorrow you end up with another question at any point along up to doing your application, please reach out to Paul and myself. We'll be glad to answer your questions. We can help you with any aspect of the application to help you improve it, and hopefully then we'll see your application submitted. We'll judge it, and we can see you at the awards breakfast later on in the year in August. Paul, do you have anything else?
No, if you're watching this after the fact, as Scott said, feel free to email us, call us, whatever is easier for you, and we'll do what we can.
All right. With that said, thank you very much. Again, this is being recorded, and it's going to be posted within the next week on the Illinois Chiefs of Police website. and also on the traffic challenge and LEL websites, along with this PowerPoint. And so you have the ability to watch it then and download the PowerPoint to help you with your application. With that being said, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing your applications.